All right then. Welcome back to the Foxhole. AfterShoX, Season 2, Episode 13, number 45 overall. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan, coming to you from Eagles Nest 2, Studio B, on a thrashing Thursday. Yeah, we're late with the content. Still working out some technical stuff. And it's a long grind as far as the new setup we're working towards, which is I'm really excited about. But it's grinding, and so that's kind of why some of this stuff is stretching later in the week. Apologize for another double shot the third week in a row, Thursday, Friday, when it should be Tuesday, Friday. But we've been helping out. SJ of SJ gets down on a big project she's on Tuesdays, and that's kind of like wrecking my week. Anyways, enough of my problems. Wow. As always, if you want to be on AfterShoX, the scene, we just cut an episode of the scene, so that is coming back. Let me know, FTINFX at gmail.com. Call the hotline, 541-525-0896. Okay, enough of the la-la. Let's get AfterShoX 045 on the tracks. Okay, where are we starting? We're going to call this first segment Hoops, a global paradise that has potholes. Where are we starting with this? That San Antonio Oklahoma City series, pretty much living up to what we thought it would be, a knockdown 15 round championship bout classic. It's still funny though how we are so prisoners of the moment right now. I mean, come on. So many people had Oklahoma City cooked after Wemby had one of those generational games. The Spurs took game one on Oklahoma City's floor. And everybody's talking about, I can see a gentleman's sweep. And I'm thinking, these are the champs. How many double-digit win streaks did this team go on? I know they're up and down with Williams. I know the Spurs have got injuries too. All of these things are factoring in. But the idea that y'all thought this was going to be done quickly, it's probably going to go 7. Although injuries may play a very strong role, especially if De'Aaron Fox can't get back, the other cat for San Antonio. And I think Williams has another issue with his hamstring, I believe. So you have to keep an eye on that. But no, I do feel like this is going to go 6 or 7. I mean, injuries, as they did last year, and probably will moving forward, may play a major factor in this series going either longer or being shorter. Time will tell, right? Okay, so everybody got on Shams about leaking the MVP. Something we already really knew. Given Denver kind of falling back into the back tier of the contender conversation. They weren't going to give it to Joker. Fine. SGA goes back to back. And then, because he went back to back, which was well earned, the conversations start. If you start talking about Jordan, you start talking about Kobe. And what I think about SGA, like I said, this is not a knock on him at all. It has nothing to do with him not being an American player as well. There's just something about him that the needle is not moving. Even when you watch when he throws down 42, you're like, yeah, it was kind of good. You get to the line. And he's more likable than Harden, okay? When Harden cooks, but the postseason, Harden most often is actually ordering takeout than cooking, but that's a whole other story. When it comes to SGA, it's just okay. I mean, I guess maybe if they put up a whole lot of hardware in this window, the reception changes. But I guess after one ring, and they look to have a strong possibility, of going back to back. You all know where I'm coming from as far as that goes. I hope. Let me know. FTINFX at gmail.com. Leave a message, 541-525-0896. Love to hear from you. Because when it comes to SGA, I just feel the needle isn't moving as much as it should for a player of his skill set. Back-to-back MVPs, doesn't sneeze at. But even if he won the next four, would I consider him to be an all-time great based on what I'm seeing right now? No. I know there's those of y'all, part of the generation, who probably would. And because you haven't seen anything or you base everything on YouTube videos that you don't have the context for, but hey. Okay. Man, let me ask this one. When it comes to what's the story? I just mentioned Harden, which like I said was another story. And Donovan Mitchell. Okay. They get it to the Eastern Conference Final, which were all like, yeah. Waving the pom-poms and, stomping the ground, saying, okay. We talked about the Sixers last time around. Now it's the Cavaliers, and they get in game one. And I'm kind of sitting here watching this. I mean, there's so much stuff going on that day. I was on this film shoot and dealing with some other live stuff. Once again, more information than you want to know. And the Cavaliers have control of the game. I'm sure you all were watching it on. And then, just like 7 minutes ago, were they up by 22? And I know the Knicks were rusty, long layoff, and maybe the fatigue of being in a rough and tumble series before that for the Cavaliers, it finally caught up to them. British Petroleum on that stuff, okay? You have a 22-point lead with 7 minutes to go in a conference final. You shut the door. That's what teams that want to wear the jewelry do. My line as far as that goes. So yeah, I don't want to hear any excuses. We'll see what happens tonight. I do feel that there is a psychological thing with the Cavaliers. Then you have Harden, who, like I said earlier, orders takeout more on money time than he does, get in the kitchen and actually cook. Now, getting to a conference final, that was more than I thought was possible. So, kudos there. But psychologically, I gotta think what happened the other night at the Garden. Right when they let the Garden vibe take over. We'll see. I don't like to pass too much judgment after even 2 games when we get this time of the year. Just saying. I don't know if we're sleeping on Gotham or not. Everybody says, well, gee, it doesn't matter if it's Oklahoma City or San Antonio that come through. They're not going to be a match. That's the Knicks with Mr. Peabody, Mr. Mike Brown. I was sitting there thinking back to the play-in, which the Knicks actually won. I'm like, don't be so sure of that. Because the one thing that all these people who claim they know so much, and we're already seeing it, you might win the battle, but not win the war because you come away too banged up. I don't know who said it earlier on TV, but they made that astute observation that there are a couple of pathways where the Knicks, should they dispatch the Cavaliers, could win their first championships in 1973. Okay, all right. Let's get really tiggy with it. You know what? I gotta make an adjustment. All right. Let's talk. Let's get some real talk in here. Boy, the WNFNBA. While you are drunk, while you need to call, have your friends call you a lift and get your ass home and sober up. Between the shenanigans on the court, off the court, and the people who are losing their minds about it, and Thelonious Monster, one of my favorite groups ever, their album A Beautiful Mess. This ain't exactly that, but it is a mess of some kind. A lot to unpack here, so give me a minute. I ain't gonna be like Jason Whitlock and spend an hour and 15 minutes babbling about this, but I will sum up a few points. Obviously, the Indiana Fever not announcing that Caitlin Clark was not going to play 90 minutes before is dirty pool, especially since she didn't practice the day before. We got that. The people who paid, traveled, flew, whatever the case may be. That's some bull jive as far as that goes. I think that's a fair thing to say, and I'm with the commentators, the Rachels and the Keep the Vision and Angry Sports and Black and White Sports, and obviously the Ben Daniel podcast where you call a spade a spade. But you all people need to calm down. You're acting like the fate of humanity exists on the WNBA allowing Caitlin Clark to elevate that league to where you think she can. And I'm not saying she can't do that. But y'all need to take a friggin' chill pill. I mean, I know that you've got lots of viewers that go on your live streams, giving you super chats and whatnot, things I wish I had going on. But the hysteria that comes with this is absolutely absurd. Come on, y'all. Get off the ledge. Right? And if she's got chronic health problems, because maybe she tried to bulk up beyond what her body's capable, y'all are going to have to deal with that. Stop screaming at the organization. Stop screaming at the league. Stop screaming at Stephanie White. Yes, there probably are the conspiracies that you speak of. After all, the pretty straight girls versus the angry ones that play on whatever team, if you know what I mean. That's real. And yes, those who make the argument that there is a reflection of some of the conflict we have among groups in this country, you're seeing a manifestation of it in the W. But I said that all along, have I not? Man. But yes, Caitlin Clark derangement syndrome is frigging real. And what I've seen over the last 30 hours, OMFW. While I'm at it, Angel, we ain't in the bayou no mo. Oh my goodness. Now you say I'm part of the narrative too. And as was pointed out by several people today, great. You kind of created a little brand being on a team that had a little attitude, and because you trolled Caitlin Clark, trying to say, well, that's what she did to HVL, which is in dispute by many as far as what actually went down. No, seriously. Have you seen the highlight reels of Me Bounds, aka Angel Reese? She's terrible. You can say what you want about the women's game in terms of its aesthetic, but come on. Let's stop thinking that Angel Reese is even in the same continent when it comes to basketball skills. Yeah, I guess she can be a defender and grab a lot of rebounds, but of course, when they're throwing up that many bricks, then I go straight to you. How impressed are we supposed to be? And I know all you out there thinking we're hating on your Bayou Queen. We're not hating on your Bayou Queen. I've never been a big fan myself, but And you all say, ball don't lie. And then what you're seeing from her is really hard on the freaking eyes. I kid you not. You just can't make this shit up. Pardon my language. Wow. But I mean, between the psychoticness going on with Caitlyn, right, all you folks in the Angel and Angry Mob that got pissed when she showed up at the Morgan Wallen concert in Indianapolis. Luckily, that didn't become a factor, but y'all are still like, see how she is? I told you she rode with him, rode with them. I told you. She one of them. She tries to play like she with us, but nah, man. She shows her true colors. And I'm thinking, wow, she can't be human. She is a girl from Iowa. Not every girl has to be like HVL and try to be, and be the fake thug life sister. Not everybody has to do that. It's okay. To sort of be able to understand your fan base and your brand. You ain't gonna be in love with it. All right, folks. We've rambled a bit much when it comes to the Queens of the Court. Gonna be a long summer of their nonsense. More intrigued with the NBA tonight with the Knicks. Anyways, when we come back, we got a few more interesting treats to lay on you. Alrighty, welcome back to the Foxhole. Your faithful host, Ken Harlan here. Ice cold chilling like Kavicha Karvich. Long ways till 5:30, man. Yeah, but we'll get to that. And then meanwhile, what are we going to call this segment? Let me think about this. I was kind of listening to that Neil Diamond compilation, the one that's kind of got the blue jean pocket. Anyways, I was thinking about calling this segment Commissioner Goodell's Traveling Salvation Show. Holla, holla, holla. Wow. Okay. So we've had a week to ingest the scheduled release and all the ramifications that come along with it. All the global excursions. And just in general, people basically planning their lives around the schedule now that it's out there. And all the weird static. Like people getting pissed off. Like, well, why do you have to have leaks? Why are you guys dropping little breadcrumbs? And it's like, well, they have to pass the logistics off to the teams. And as a bonus, the teams get to have a little fun with their social media, leaking a few things. As long as they don't give up the whole kit and caboodle, what's the problem? Oh, I know. You all need to bitch about something. Invent things to be pissed off about when there's no need. As far as not happy with the NFL dropping in information earlier. Just in the same thing with Shams leaking the NBA MVP early. Not criminal. It is full absurdity on full display, if you ask me, though, this whole thing. I mean, it's so multifaceted. And maybe that's why it's so absurd to me, because fandom on the one hand and psychosis that's associated with that, then the stark reality of the economic engines that are driven by these 17 plus playoff, and with a preseason in there, events that people's lives and business are so tied into. Rep hard or don't rep at all, as they say. So yeah, it's funny because you have this, you have the draft, then you drop a schedule, and then you sort of like regress to OTAs, which by the way I hear Lamar and Justin Herbert aren't at. For guys that don't have a lot of this, what's up? What up? What up? Okay. Where are we going now? Okay. There's a decline of affirmative action in the No Fun League. A lot of things going on here this week. Number one, the guy down in Florida, the AG, is he Attorney General? Begins with a U. Part of the scenery is Mr. X and JFK. Just part of the scenery. And about working to get ahead of any possible headaches as far as possible civil rights violations, antitrust. Second part of it is this accelerator program that we've talked about on my platforms, the good, bad, and weird about it. And to no surprise, given where we are with coaching cycles, and just a way to get away from DEI type of policies in this particular administration. I mean, call it for what it is. A fact that is going on. And it's not a surprise that the accelerator program, once designed to get people of color mainly into the pool, I think it's like, I don't know, maybe 56% people of color, and then what would that be? Like 44% white, which is something, because it just tells you what I've been saying all along, that there are certain people who are born into this business, Shanahan's, McVay, Kubiak, you get the drift. And they're always going to have a leg up. And I do believe that there are folks that coaches' sons, high school, junior college, at many levels, who seek to push their kids into programs like that. And it's incumbent on parents of all colors, if you want your kid to pursue a coaching career, especially wanting to get in the NFL, college, whatever, take advantage of these accelerator programs and learn how the process works. And it's good to see that you're expanding it. You're just not looking at a particular group trying to elevate them. I mean, it's just more incumbent. Give us 4 or 5 years of data to see if people who claim to be on that trajectory, who are being denied because of race or ethnicity or whatever, then we can come back and have this discussion. Now that we're kind of moving away from the affirmative action side of things. The Rooney Rule. It's a good idea, I suppose. And I do think it has some usefulness, but if it's just going to be half-assed, do away with it. Okay, so we got some interesting news this week with A-Rod. Yeah, I know. The fatigue. It's like, why, if you're going to bitch about the guy, why are you bringing it up on your platform? Well, one, that's why he let the Steelers know his intentions. Sign a 1-year deal. And also told the world, this is going to be the last dance. So, gee whiz, get ready, folks, for the 12-parter coming in. What will that be? 2027 or 2020? Well, that'll probably be 2028 or 2029. Yeah. No, it's interesting. At least we have some finality to this. And you can debate the Steelers' motivation here, and I wish I did with the legendary Mo from downtown, better known as Jason Buckley yesterday, hardcore Steelers fan, known for many years. We were talking, had a lengthy conversation in terms of being in the Aaron Rodgers business. And I know Michael Wilbon had a great point. It's like, why are we still talking about his irrelevant butt? Ass. Well, maybe because the league is kind of boring. You ever think about that? I mean, who's making any headlines? Maybe that's good that quarterbacks are heads down in the lap. But we know from today that Lamar and Justin Herbert aren't OTAs. But then we always hear about Herbert's girlfriend, actor girlfriend. These guys don't make a lot of noise. And the NFL loves people that move the needle. And the Steelers, a team that clearly wants to be on the radar somewhat. They aren't drinking the champagne, but they still want to be relevant and still want to be talked about. Just saying, man. Okay, what else do we got? Commissioner Goodell's traveling salvation show. Okay, the Sorsby stench. And the Foxhole's take on the Sorsby stench. Okay, this kid, Brandon Sorsby, we've talked about this far more than we needed to, or I had hoped to, over the last couple of months, but the story's not going away. I think I mentioned in the last Fox Trade in a Foxhole episode 314, 315 will be coming tomorrow. Please subscribe, like, tell your friends. Let's make this happen. Sorsby, in this injunction he's filing, and we find out another whack-ball judge was going to be dealing with it. And God, what school does he go to? Texas Tech. Judge recused himself from this upcoming hearing. I'm not sure what that means yet, as far as this being advantageous for Mr. Sorsby. My take is simple. Blackball that bitch for on both sides of the coin. You can't be in the supplemental draft for 3 years and your ass ain't going back to college. I mean, you were getting fat NIL money. We're not talking about just getting a Dodge Ram and some money where you can go take your girl to the Maldives or something crazy like that. Live with a fat efficiency in your college town. You were making fat Mac money. And the idea that you can't have the discipline to stay away from that kind of stuff, I don't want to hear maybe a weakness. I don't want to hear that bull jive. If you don't have the discipline, we should have no compassion in this particular case. In most cases like it. You know, all those fools down there in Georgia always getting in trouble. Driving cars like a fool and doing, as General Andre says, stop doing stupid shit. I know. You know another one that makes me scratch my head? The NCAAP. Yeah, that NAACP. Really? Really? I don't know if y'all have been following what's been going on with that. Follow sports, this may have came across your radar, but the NCAAP wants prospective African American, mostly football, basketball, to scorn any of the southern schools where gerrymandering has changed the voting patterns that they feel are unfair to African Americans mainly. This is a British petroleum if there ever was one. Okay? I almost just want to say, bitch, please. So you're telling folks where these schools, especially the SEC and the ACC, are going to pay top flight recruits pretty much generational wealth or the opportunity to lead to generational wealth, and you're scorning them for what reason? I would like to think that even if you're woke, you're still going to say British Petroleum on that one. I think it was Whitlock who said, maybe this is some kind of shakedown or something. You know, where they're trying to shake down college presidents. Because make that one make sense. I mean, I get it on some level, but that is so Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff, if you ask me. Man. I mean, this is just like full tilt to me as far as the NCAA is concerned. So, anyways, when we come back, we'll mix up some more nutmeg. Alrighty, folks. Where are we going right now? Since we're having a little fun here, bear with me. We're always fooling around. This is part of the under construction, testing out different systems and whatnot. So, any technical anomalies, I apologize in advance. Just making it happen, but we just happen to do it actually while we're doing an episode. Otherwise, the content will never get dropped. But hence why we're kind of late for the third week in a row, which we also apologize for. All right. Well, you know, I'm always going to have to get a little conversation in about the media. Let me see if I can do this here. No, that's not going to work. So this segment is going to be called The Journey from the Sports Reporters to the View. You remember that show on ESPN, which kind of started it all? The sports reporters. You'd have guys like Bob Ryan, Mike Lupica, Skip Bayless, Jason Whitlock. You get that's kind of where it all started, where print journalists became sports personalities and became less of a journalist and more of a talking head. And you flip from that back in the 80s, and you can't forget about Roy Firestone and Up Close. How we went from that was kind of nice, was informative in the beginning, to essentially what we have is the view when you go to the TV today, whether it's ESPN or FS1, which is why people like Coach JB and Big Smitty and their cast of interesting characters are getting people like me to tune in as opposed to whatever is on TV. Because it's like The View. This fool Stephen A. Smith, and I said, fool, beeping with everybody and always talking about how many followers he frigging has. And I think you have followers, and we're supposed to be impressed by that. I mean, when ESPN, for some reason, thought you could be the face for a generation of Disney sports, basically. Oh man, It's so aggravating and it's so nauseating. And Whitlock and those guys have a point. We have Stephen A. Smith basically treating people like he's a mafia boss, and the talent are like, what are they? Sharecroppers, showing up at the end of the season. Yes, the boss, that we pick it up and get in front of pins. The way he talked to them, but you bringing my name up. And it's just like, so what? Bringing your name up like you're not beyond reproach. I mean, and you're trying to do this because the people that do have a significant platform calling your sorry ass out. But this whole thing, to the View. It brings me to, when it comes to these talking heads, and this is something that the folks like Whitlock and Dre Baldwin, Scap Attack, Korean Cosell, it's all over the place. Even Dan Levitard in the mainstream basically saying, is sports journalism dead? And he has a point. Because it's like becoming the View. You've got the jocks who, I'm not saying they shouldn't have a platform. If I have a platform, hell, why not? And we're in an age where we're curious, but more often than not, curiosity kills the cat. Because just because you can doesn't mean you should in many of these people's cases, because they can't keep their foot out of their mouths. Another story as well, right? Yeah, I think he's got a great point because it's just you're either in a beef, you're either screaming and yelling, or you're trying to show us how smart you really are. I don't know. That's just how I kind of see it. The Braves Rossini thing finally running out of steam. Hooray for humanity! Okay, there are some pictures of Miss Diana playing hot foot and kissy poo with her husband. Great, great. What else are you gonna do? What you gotta put out some kind of positive optic. The heat around Braves has obviously subsided. Nobody's talking about, well, he might lose his job over this stuff. Oh no, he isn't. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that at some point you could only drop so many pictures of them, and well, maybe not the best of light, and maybe you could say uncompromising, but nobody has the tape of them. Oh yeah, making those kind of noises, and without that, sooner or later, the story lost steam because all we really care about is the salacious nature of things. And if it ain't got that Rojo salsa, after a while, we're just like, right? It's like those good leftovers you get from a Mexican restaurant. Leave it in the work fridge and forget about it. It has to get tossed. Yeah, that's kind of where we are with the Braves Rossini thing. And I mentioned this in the last segment. I brought up Shams, the Sharms. I like to call them Shams. Are we really mad at him for getting paid to do his job? Are we really getting mad at him for that? I mean, I don't know. Him, he took over for Woj, and we all love the Woj bombs, and now we like the Shams troops. That's the whole thing of people who are basketball junkies, who need their inside nuggets, which helps them build their content. People love that. I know you're going to have certain people in the peanut gallery. As I said earlier, y'all just need something to complain about. You need something to be about. You need something to be angry about. And when it comes to being, you are going to be whatever you can with the itch. Mm-hmm. Just saying, yo. But yes, being mad at Shams, it's so silly. When I saw that, my head almost exploded. Okay, so he leaked the MVP early. It's not like he pulled a Clinton with the dress with Monica. Come on, y'all. If you survive that, you'll survive the MVP being leaked early by Shams. Come on now. He's just doing his job to be an insider, to drop that kind of insider knowledge. I know, but you all kill everybody. You all want to string Shefty, Ian Rappaport. You all want to flog them. I get it. And I like this one. I obviously being a little cynical here when we're talking about the journey from the sports, ESPN's, the sports reporters, to it, everything becoming a view, like the View. What's up, ladies of the View? But my man, Mr. McVeigh, who I mentioned earlier when I spoke about the accelerator program, that you could say that he's a nepo baby, but I don't call these guys nepo babies. These guys were just born into it, and give their daddies credit that taught them the insides and the outs of the business. And they worked hard, because if you didn't work hard, you ain't getting the keys to anything important in the No Fun League without putting the work in. And it was interesting when they asked why he hadn't stepped away, because there's a lot of big Brady money offers when he wants to step away from coaching and go into the broadcasting booth. But he basically broke it down and said, man, come on. If I walk away now, you all would say I was quitting and I couldn't handle losing. He's like British Petroleum. No, I know that kind of, country voice he tries to use. I know I need a few more rings so you all can truly say I'm great. Y'all ain't going to be satisfied with me having one ring. And I think he's right. I think he probably wants to get to like 2 or 3, something to that effect. So I can definitely see that happening as far as Mr. McVay is concerned. Yeah, I like that he says he probably couldn't handle the losing. Okay, when we come back, we will do some parting shots and probable salty takes. All right, welcome back to the Foxhole. Ice cold, chilling like a Vicha Carvachkel. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're going to close out AfterShoX 045 with some parting shots and those salty takes that come along the way. Oh, I don't know if it's too salty about this. PGA Championship, and congratulations, Mr. Rye. We'll talk more about that on episode 315 coming out tomorrow. PGA Championship earns its highest ratings, I believe, in 5 years. So, what does that exactly mean? What it exactly means is we no longer need a Tiger boost for golf to have decent ratings. That's a good thing. We've been liberated from the farmer. Oh, that was kind of tough. If you know, you really know. But yes, that is a wonderful thing for the game. As we've been alluding to after the Masters into the second major of the year, some of the compelling storylines, the Scotty Rory thing, and a slew of very talented golfers who are capable of doing some magnificent things. And the ratings show that. I mean, obviously, viewership seems to be up everywhere. Like I always say, you can only trust that so much because of the way the books are being cooked now. But I will say I did feel there was more interest, just the vibe surrounding the second major of the year. Because let's face it, of the four, it's kind of really always a stepchild. But once again, believe what you want to believe as far as the numbers are concerned, but it was a great weekend in Pennsylvania outside of Philly. Good for them. Especially now that Liv really seems to be doing the Hindenburg. I hear there's another kind of Hail Mary plan being discussed, but we'll look into that and bring it up in tomorrow's episode of Foxhole and Foxhole. Yep. No more Tiger Boots needed. Imagine that. Where are we going next? Yeah, I know. May have screwed this recording up, but hopefully not. I know I just said that. So, Ronda Rousey got back into the octagon. "17 seconds is all it took her to dispatch Gina Carano. Lost all that weight for 17 seconds. Well, at least you got paid. Making this is not really helping MMA, but conveniently, at the same time, Conor McGregor, that Conor McGregor, announces he is actually going to step back into the octagon. I know. Couldn't believe it myself. But yes, this summer, not part of the grand ball in the Capitol, but nonetheless, still will draw lots of eyeballs. I think July 11th. So, is he arriving at the 11th hour and 57th minute to give the UFC, the whole MMA circuit, a much needed blood transfusion? We shall see. Okay, what's the next point I want to bring up? Let's go up the road. Yeah, to the 503. The PDX. The Rose City. Yeah, it's kind of night and day in the Rose Garden, isn't it? I mean, think of it this way. Portland Fire got 2 nice wins under the belt already, knocking off the Liberty, then taking down Connecticut Sun and my girl HVL. Lost a tough one in the aforementioned Caitlin Clark Oliver Stone sequel. What is this, like I'm probably 7 or 8 right now? But still, drawing great crowds. There's a lot of good energy. It's all happiness, it seems like. Then you flip over to the Trailblazers, and there's a lot of concern. New owner is, we've been talking about this from the beginning. I don't know about this guy, homie. Slashing jobs, basically coming out saying, yeah, this is how it's going to be. I don't have to sit here and, what did we say, be a big shot, throwing cash around like Reese's Pieces. I mean, even Clyde Drexler was calling him out about being cheap. I don't know. I would like to hope that Jody Allen put a clause in there that makes it harder for this guy to try to move the Blazers out of Portland. Because it's clear he has no interest in ever acquiescing to the Rip City Nation. He gonna do things his way. And I don't know, for the community wise, and you know that the love they have for that team. If you don't, go check out the documentaries. If you don't live in the Northwest and you're watching AfterShoX or the Foxhole and the Foxhole podcast. Yeah, I don't know what to think as far as that's concerned. I don't. I would like to think that there's language that would prevent the Blazers from leaving or put some roadblocks in place. But if somebody said, "Hey, I've never thought the Sonics would leave," and it's been a hot minute or two now. It looks like where the Sonics are going to be restored. But I think the Blazers will leave Portland. I don't know how easy it would be for them to get an expansion team to replace them, given how long the NBA dragged their feet with Vegas and Seattle. Wow. I think I mentioned this earlier. Seeing the First Things First crew at the Brickyard in anticipation of the Great American Race coming up here. Gosh, this is just the season of phony we're entering in, where people are talking about stuff they shouldn't be, like auto racing, the World Cup, which obviously is going to be on our soil. It's just going to be insufferable because these people are going to be talking like they care when you know they don't know jack squat, that some intern pumped them with information during the production meeting. The season of phony. It just always gets to be so freaking nauseating, if you ask me. Man. We'll leave you with this one. Club Shay Shay. Ain't back on ESPN yet, but the LeBron loving #1 cheerleader dropped some interesting scrapple for us to feast on. In fact, he says what FTINFX has been saying about Kobe since his passing. And even before he passed, when the love was starting to go around about what a great ambassador he is to the game and what he's doing for the ladies' game. Y'all didn't have the love and the reverence for most of his career. And I know I'm a Laker fan. I didn't even have. In fact, there was times when I resented the guy. And this idea of him being universally loved and it always being that way is truly a revisionist thing. And Club Shay Shay is spot on. Like, y'all speak so flowery of Kobe. Y'all weren't like that when he actually played. But in fact, most of you mofos were hating on him, saying he was a gunner. Nobody wanted to play with him. His desire to win was never good in the clubhouse atmosphere. So good for you, Shay Shay, because I've been saying that for a long time, that this provision on Kobe is really interesting. Now, you got the Kobe-ites, okay? Just like the Clarkites, the Angelettes, or whatever you want to call them. You got your hives. Fanboy, fangirl shit, that's a whole nother ball of wax. I'm just talking about in the general consensus. Yeah, the conversation has so changed and reframed. I mean, you have a few people who were disturbed about happening in Eagle Rock who will bring that up. But even then, they're usually looked upon like just going, what? You're going to be angry the rest of your life? All right, folks. We have reached the finish line of AfterShoX 045. Hopefully this all works out, or I'll be cutting this again. But this has been fun. Stay tuned for more interesting content. I'm going to drop another episode tomorrow because we're just on that compact of a schedule. Enjoy some food. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy the great weekend of sports coming up. We'll see you soon enough. Peace, y'all.